Hey guys, Eric here. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the hectic weekend I had. This past Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, quite a bit has been going on in my life. And we'll start with Friday, in which I was able to attend New Japan Pro Wrestling's Windy City Riot show. And I had such a great time there. My friend who is visiting from North Carolina, this was their first ever wrestling show, and they told me that they had such a good time watching that they're actually obsessed with it now. So that was awesome to hear. You know, I always love, as a wrestling fan, hearing non-wrestling fans watch the shows and come out of it being like, you know what, that shit was fucking awesome. You know, that's always the best feeling, right? And that show also taught me to never listen to the IWC ever again, because I get it, right? Watching wrestling live is always much better, right? But you know, when I checked Twitter, when I got back home, I saw that people really didn't enjoy the Gabe Kidd and Tomohiro Ishii match. They were shitting on it, like calling it like an absolute dud, saying it was one of the worst matches all year. And you know, watching it live, I thought the beginning of the match, you know, when they're smacking each other back and forth, it gave me that PTSD to a match Ishii had a few months ago with Chris Jericho, which was pretty much exactly like that. There was no real substance. It was just, you know, chop, chop, chop. But I thought that ending sequence, especially when we got into the sudden death portion of the match, that shit banged. And it hurts for me because I thought the worst match of the night was the Hiroki Goto Shota Umino match. And it's not even Goto's fault, man. Okay, Shitter Pumino is the poop that comes out of my ass. They can never make me hate you, Goto, okay? There's nothing they can possibly do to make me turn on you. I waited way too long, and I've been through hell and back with you. I'm not gonna turn on you because you had a bad match with a bad wrestler. But you wanna know what really got the blood pumping for me? Was fucking seeing Hiroshi Tanahashi bring back that fighting spirit against Takeshita, and probably one of the best Tanahashi matches he's had in what, maybe 2 or 3 years now. Like, the last time I remember just a really great Tanahashi match was probably, what, back in 2021 against Shingo. To be able to witness Tanahashi's last match in America, that meant a lot to me. I started watching the company back in the pandemic, so it's so crazy to think about that, let alone all the opportunities I've been able to be blessed with, you know, here in Chicago, to be able to watch the New Japan guys come over. But to be able to have that opportunity and for things to line up that way, it's insane. And speaking of which, that connects to what happens on the next day here on Saturday. As I would go over to the same area and I would attend a C2E2, I was able to check off a few things from my personal bucket list, some stuff I've been wanting to do for a while, and something that I mentioned in a video I made a few months ago. But before I get into like the cool things that happened on that day, I just want to say too, the big man upstairs, I know for a fact he was looking out for me, because when I went to go get my badge in the morning at the will call, I had accidentally, well, I thought at the time, I'd accidentally gotten a Sunday badge. And, you know, I went back just to get a new badge, and I was like, you know, oh, they must have given me this by mistake. And I checked my receipt, but even though I bought this ticket way back in February, I saw on the receipt that I had bought a fucking Sunday ticket. So I don't know how my fucking stupid ass did that, but I did that. C2E2 probably has the most goated staff of all time. I'm not sure if I should mention this because they'll probably get in trouble for doing this, but legitimately, this one woman who was on the staff, she just asked me for my ID. She said, you know what, I got you. And she gave me a Saturday pass. Like, dude, W staff right there. At C2E2, I was just walking around, you know, just barely got in there. And I saw this El Phantasmo cosplayer who was actually at the show the day before. And, you know, I was talking to her. And she also had a friend who was also watching wrestling for the first time and was attending that show. And that friend also had a very similar experience to my friend. You know, they both became obsessed with wrestling after attending that New Japan show. And I was like, that's fucking sick. Right after that, too, I saw, you know, 2 guys walking around with Bullet Club shirts. The War Dog shirts, I should say. I started a conversation with them, and I found out that they're actually YouTubers. And they actually have a YouTube channel called Smarking Down. You know, some more walking. My friend and I turn a corner, and there's fucking Joe Hendry next to Jerry the King Lawler and Rikishi. And you already know Rikishi was probably charging 100 something bucks for a fucking photo. And by some miracle, a few aisles down too, can you believe it? There he was in the flesh. The nostalgia critic, Doug Walker. I chopped it up with him. Him and I were talking some, Kikassia lore, Oni play stuff. I talked to him about Smiling Friends, how cool it was to see his cameo on there. And he had mentioned that Zach's girlfriend, or people who don't know Zach, one of the creators of Smiling Friends, Psychic Pebbles, whatever you may know him as, his girlfriend was actually a few booths down too, so that was pretty awesome to hear. And I got a photo with Doug, Rob, and Cinema Snob, so that was fucking sick. And I mentioned a few videos back on my Kikassia review that was something I wanted to get done at C2E2 this year, and guess what? It manifested, and I was able to do that. But of course, here comes the grand finale. I was originally planning to link up with Naito, but the day had to be cut a little short. It was whatever, right? Things lined up, and I was actually able to get a photo with Hiroshi Tanahashi. And I was able to talk to Tana. It was pretty brief, but I just had to ask him, even though I already knew the answer, and I already knew that it was not going to be a good one. I just had to ask anyways, and I asked Tanahashi after we got the photo. I just asked him straight up, right? I was like, you guys are both retiring this year. Would you ever face John Cena? And Tanahashi told me bluntly, And again, I was completely expecting this, but it was worth a shot, right? Tanahashi told me that even though the match of John Cena would be a dream match of his, because of the working relationship with AEW and New Japan, it just can't happen. And I already knew that. It just hurts my soul so much hearing it from Tanahashi himself. Like, he wants to do it, but obviously, business is business. AEW definitely wouldn't like it, if all of a sudden they breach that contract just to do, a one-off match. And, as a business, too, you think about how much money you lose for something like that, right? If you break that type of partnership, because AEW is worth, like, how many millions of dollars now? And the New Japan brand makes so much money over there, right? I completely understood, and, that was still an amazing interaction to even have, and something that I could even say I did. Like, I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of wrestlers thanks to C2E2. Like, what was it? 2 years ago, I was able to talk to Christian Cage, and then 3 years ago, I was able to talk to CM Punk. I'm actually surprised that he wasn't there this year. I'm assuming, well, because WWE's on the World of WrestleMania or whatever, and he's probably pretty booked up. But Punk, when he was in AEW, he was hitting up C2E2 every single time. I remember when he had barely re-signed with the company. I think it was at, the first C2E2 out of the pandemic, which was 2021. They had a huge AEW panel, and Punk was a surprise guest on it. And that panel had Hangman Page, the Guns, and that also included Billy Gunn. Shit, who else was on there? I think Thunder Rosa was on there. Shoot, I forgot. But yeah, no, it was a pretty eventful weekend for sure. And because of how good that day went, you already know, I just had the urge to just give thanks. So today, I'm recording this on Sunday night, and I went to church in the morning. I went, for Palm Sunday, and I just had to thank, bro. Think about that. What are the chances that even though I bought that wrong badge months ago, what are the chances that I was able to not only get the badge for the day, but also be able to do all that? Meet those cool cosplayers, meet that YouTuber, meet Joe Hendry, meet the Nostalgia Critic, and also meet Tanahashi. Like, that's sick, and I'm eternally grateful that was able to turn out that way. Today, though, I will say too, later on in the day, so after me and my friends, we got some lunch after mass. My body just started decaying, and right now I could say, I don't feel too well. And a bit ago, I'll admit it. I've probably taken a shit at least 6 or 7 times today. I don't know what I caught. Oh man, dude, I'm literally fucking sweating just talking into the camera. Oh man, that's gonna suck. I have work tomorrow, and I also want to talk about the Stardom show coming up. Well, what can you do? We got a lot of wrestling to enjoy this week, so I'm definitely gonna be peeping a lot of the shows going on. I don't know how much I'm gonna be able to talk about when it's all said and done. Hopefully, I can get it condensed enough before Mania, because I want to make my review on Mania a separate video. But I guess we'll see, right? We'll see what time allows. But for now, that's going to do it for me here. Hope you guys have a good day, and see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.